Hey everybody, today we are hanging out in front of my 60-watt machine and we are doing alignment. If you haven't looked at it yet, look at my principles of alignment video because it will go over some of the basics and understanding you need to go into this video and make it all make sense. Because I'm not going to spend tons of time on every little twist and move that I'm going to make, but it will make sense if you watch that video and then come back here. But hang out and we're going to go nuts because we're also going to use the reverse alignment tool from American Photonics and show you how I use that to get the best performance out of your laser. All right, so some things that you're going to want to get started in this process is going to be some masking tape, the tools that you need to loosen up the lock nuts that are on all the thumb screws. My laser head specifically has an Allen key to loosen up some of those thumb screws. Yours are probably going to be different. And some scrap wood for when we get down to the third mirror alignment, and potentially even when you want to do a test card just to see what your results look like. Lastly, and this is not mandatory, but at the later part of the video, I'll go over the reverse alignment tool. So you'll need that and a pen or some kind of marker so that way you can mark where this dot lands. So things that you will probably need when we go through alignment. So one of the first things that you need to do is we're actually going to need to set the max power on the laser. So the reason for this is if the power is too high, it's just going to blow a big hole straight through the tape. So we want to set as low as possible and still get a good mark. For most machines, that's about 15%. You might have to go up to about 20, just depending on the machine you have. Some tubes will not fire, around 10 or lower. So we're going to go ahead, jump in here, max power, and you can see mine is set to 15. In order to change these, you can just slide over and up and down, and you'll kind of see where that little hash line is underneath there, and that makes it so you can adjust those. I set both of these to 15. The purpose for a 1 and 2 is if you had 2 tubes in your machine, and just to make sure that I got it and that for some reason it wasn't set to the tube 2 setup, I just set both to 15. This is not going to change any of your settings once you actually get to using software. Software will override this. This is solely for the pulse aspect of the machine. So we're going to go ahead and set enter, and then we'll get on over to starting our alignment. All right, so here we are at the first mirror. So the goal here is just to make sure that it is hitting the mirror. Granted, we go ahead and we put a piece of tape here on this frame ring right here, but you want to make sure that the point that you get is actually going through and it's hitting the mirror and not the frame around it. So we're going to go ahead, drop a piece of tape here, push into that ring so we can really see where it's at, and then we're going to mark a pulse. And I like to go ahead and I'll tap it a couple of times if I don't get a good ring on the first one. There you go. So now you can kind of see where that dot is. And it's really, that one is in the center of that dot there. So I'll pull that tape off so you can really see it. But I can tell that that is going straight to that mirror. So there you go. Looking at that one. It's a nice good dot. It was really centered in here. Doesn't have to be, mirror 1 and 2. They don't have to be centered, but all the dots need to be on top of each other. So here, pretty easy because there's only one dot. You're not moving anything. It goes straight to the mirror and then on to the next one. If for any reason you were not actually hitting the mirror, say you were clipping one side, the other, or even hitting the frame of the actual mirror holder here, what you'd want to do is actually adjust the tube. You can loosen up the brackets that are holding the tube in place and actually slide the tube one way or the other, or even reduce or release the holders that are holding the tube and actually shim the tube up or down. All right, so now that we're moving on to mirror number 2, so we're talking 1, 2, 2, you want to start out with everything nice and close. You're always going to compare your close marks to your distant marks. So we're going to go ahead and put a piece of tape on here and really kind of push into that ring so we can see where it is as far as in reference to the ring there. And then we're going to go nice and close. Get that all the way up close. We'll pulse there first, and then we're going to move it all the way away and then pulse back over here and compare the two. All right, so you got a little view in there. So we're going to go ahead and mark pulse here. All right, and kind of see it there. I just want to mark it enough so that way, there we go. So it's a nice good dot. So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to slide it all the way back here. All right, so now you can kind of see that dot there. So we're going to go ahead and pulse a couple times now to compare where it is at. And so it looks like mine is actually just a little bit high of where my other mark is at. Granted, keep in mind I have done an alignment on this machine already, but we're going over it again. So what I'll even do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen up the screws, and I'm going to put this thing a little bit farther out of alignment so I can show you a little bit better what it is that you want to anticipate from your machine. All right, so here I have gone and I've intentionally made my machine out of alignment. So you see this spot here, that one was the spot that I got, the mark that I got from the closest area or the closest position to the tube. And then this one up here is the one that I got out here all the way far. So what you can anticipate with this is that this mark actually needs to get down below the other side of this one. So it's going to end up down here somewhere. So what I'm going to start doing, I'm going to leave the mirror here and I'm going to start working the angle down so I get to about this point, and then we'll get a fresh piece of tape and we'll start it over again. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the mirror up. So I'm going to go ahead and, or actually, sorry, adjust the mirror down. So I'm going to screw the screw in so it pushes the mirror down. And we're going to work our way down towards that spot. So here we go, a couple pulses. Okay, so we're starting to move down. I'm going to screw it in some more. Okay, so now I'm about on top of that other one, but I still want to go down a little bit farther. So I'm going to go ahead, move the camera here. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to screw it in just a little bit more, mark our pulse. So yeah, it's down just a little bit farther now. I still want to go just a little bit farther. Pulse. Okay, so now I'm down there pretty far. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to compare again. And all I was using on this alignment was the top screw. So that's going to go ahead and adjust the mirror up and down. The other one, the screw on the left, would actually adjust it to the left and right. So now we're going to go ahead, we'll get a new piece of tape, put that in here. And then I'm going to go ahead, move it back up here. You're going to be out of sight for a second. I'm going to pulse. And then we're going to come back out here far. Now you should be able to see it again. Let me check the camera. Yep, you got a good view there. And we're going to start pulsing again. Oh, and look at that. That is actually landing like right on top of each other. Almost basically to the point where I can't even see the difference. But that's the idea, is so you don't want to shoot for where the mark is at and just try and chase each other around. You actually have to get just to the other side of that mark. So if you have a mark, your close mark is, say here, your distant mark is up here, you're going to have to get down over here to where it is going to be aligned. Right here, this is the spot where we are aligned from our mirror 1 to 2, and so now we can go and we can start working on mirror 2 to 3. Okay, for this next part, what we're actually going to do is we want, at least the way that I like to do it, first I compare this corner, the back left corner, and then this front right corner. So the way I think about it is, think about a gate. So the hinge on a gate is really nice and tight and close, and it's all the way back, and that's the smallest point of movement. But then on the outside, the very far end of the gate, there's a lot of movement. So that's, here's little movement, here's a lot of movement. So any errors we have in our alignment, we are going to see the biggest error down here. So we got to get everything perfect from, the tube to mirror one to mirror two, and then all the way down, comparing this corner to this corner. And then we kind of go spot check the other corners and just make sure that everything looks good. But that's what we want to compare, at least in this step. Okay, so here we are looking at our laser head. So this is going to be our mirror 2 to 3. And we're going to go ahead, put a piece of tape there, and really push into the laser head. So I've already said, your mirror 1, mirror 2, those do not have to be perfectly centered. But when you get to the laser head, the more perfectly centered you can get, the better cuts you're going to get, the more power you're going to get down to that lens, and the more you are just going to love your laser. So we're going to go here. We're going to hit a couple pulses on the laser head just to compare. Okay, so there's a good dot right there. So now, go ahead, we'll pick up the camera, slide over here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And then we're going to come and compare it down over here. So all the way to the front, all the way to the right. Okay, so now we're sitting over here. We've moved the laser head from the back left corner to the front right corner, and we're going to hit a pulse. So you can see I'm off. So this spot over here is actually pretty close to center. So now I've got to get myself up over here. So again, we're talking, this is where my close spot was. This is where my distance spot is. I'm probably going to be over here, is my guess. So I'm going to start moving the mirrors. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the first one, so that way that one's not moving around. And then because I'm wanting to get to the left and a little bit upwards, I'm going to have to loosen up a couple of different mirrors here. Or a couple of different screws here. So I'm going to do the top one and the one on the left side, so that way I can go ahead and move up and down and left and right. In order to do that, I'm going to have to just move the laser head up a little bit, just get it out of the way, and I'll bring you guys over here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So I am just trying to get this guy loosened up. Loosened up there, and this one loosened up here. Okay, so looking at where I'm at there, I need to go a little bit to the left. So I'm going to unscrew this guy, and it's going to bring my mirror back, and then just a little bit. And then I need to go up a little bit. So I'm also going to unscrew this top one, and it's going to bring the mirror up and point it upwards a little bit. So now let's go back over. We'll bring this back forward again. And then I can start adjusting little by little to try and get to where we want to be. So just trying to get you guys set back up again. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and pulse. So that one's actually hitting right on top of that other one. So I probably need to go just a little bit more. So a little bit more to the left and a little bit more up. And then we're going to go ahead and pulse again. So we're going to keep moving. A little bit more left, a little bit more up. Pulse. Okay, so now I'm just past that spot. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this tape off. We're going to compare again. And you can see that I'm not getting to center here. And so we'll have to do a little bit of tube adjustment. So now we're going to go ahead, go all the way back, go over to the left side, and I'm going to go ahead and hit a pulse. You can see that marked. And then I'm going to bring it forwards, bring it back. Okay, so I can kind of see that mark there. It's a little bit faint, but we're going to go ahead and mark again. And so now I'm just a little bit too far. So I can probably go and just move it so I'm just to the other side of this dot. So now I got to come this way. So I'll leave you guys there. And I'm going to make some adjustments. So I need to go to the right. So I'm going to screw the thumb screw that goes left and right in. And I need to go up a little bit. So the other one out, so it goes up. So now let's just check and see where we're at. Okay, still need a little bit more movement. So let's just focus on the left and right. Screw that one in a little bit more. We're getting pretty dang close. And in just a hair more. And these are just tiny movements, not big movements, because we want to just eke our way there. And I mean, that actually looks like it's probably it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do it one more time. And pulse. Okay, so you can see where that one's at. Pulse. And I'm basically hitting the same spot there. So we're doing pretty good. So I'm actually with that one. So let's go ahead. We'll just move it over just a little bit. Really push in here so you can see kind of where center is going to be. And hit pulse. And it's actually not too far from center, but there's definitely more I could do as far as alignment. And what I would end up doing is I would take the tube and I would angle it so that way it would move the dot left and right. There's a little bit of trial and error there because sometimes you have to think about which way do I move the tube to get the result that I'm wanting to get. And ultimately, it just ends up being easier just to give it a little nudge one direction, pulse, and see where you end up. But that's how you get that centered here on the laser head, is just making a small movement with the tube. As a side note, if we were not able to get this line right here, this beam parallel, I'm going to go ahead and zoom you back out. Oh. There is the ability underneath these mirrors to unscrew them. You can unscrew this mirror and you can move it back. You can get it aligned to where it is actually sitting at the squared corner from that mirror over to the laser head over here. So that way it's a nice perpendicular corner. All right, so at this point, we are at the third mirror. So using traditional methods, what I have done here so far is I have loosened up everything, taken the little tube here out, and also taken off this ring that helps put tension on that tube. I just want to get down to the bare minimum, so as little moving parts as possible. And we're going to go ahead and put a piece of tape right at the bottom of here and push up into it, so that way we can kind of see where this tube is, because we want to get this beam centered. All right, and so now we're going to go ahead and we'll pulse a couple times. All right, and then we can see where it's at. And that's pretty center from where I'm looking here. So I'm good at this point, but if you still needed to do anything else, what you would do is actually use these knobs to adjust them. And ultimately, the goal of everything that you would want is to technically get it so that way you could do two pulses from two different heights and they like all land on top of each other. So I'll go ahead and show you that right now. All right, so go ahead and I'll pulse right here. So you can see where that one's coming out. And then if I go and I lower the bed, say another 10 millimeters or so, and then pulse again, you can see that it's still hitting right on top of the same spot. So then we'll go ahead, lower it some more, put the nozzle and everything back in, and we want to make sure that it's getting a nice pulse coming right out of the nozzle. All right, so again, we'll just use some of this tape. Go ahead, push it right up onto the bottom of the nozzle here, and pulse. And we can see there, it's a nice small dot right in the center of that circle. So that's it. We're good to go. That will be the full alignment using traditional methods. So if you want to see the reverse alignment tool, hang on just a second and we'll get started on that. I want perfection if I can get it. This is the reverse alignment tool from American Photonics. So what the goal of this guy is to make sure that you're getting a perfect 90-degree angle here in the laser head and out to the other mirrors. You have to go all the way back to the tube and then align the tube all the way back to the laser head, or it does not work. If you go and you do a full alignment and then just square up this corner, it's not going to help you. You have to go through and you have to match up the tube to the rest of the reverse alignment, so that way you are still getting a nice perfect 90-degree angles in all of the corners. All right, so the way that this guy works is you take the back off and you go ahead and you put in 3 of these batteries. And you can see the laser starts turning on there. You can see it there, it starts pointing. So I'll go ahead and screw this back on. Oh, there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and insert it into the bottom of the laser head here. And you need to go ahead, tighten this up so that way it holds the tool nice and tight, so it doesn't have any wiggle. So you really need to you tighten that up, make sure that it's lined. And you can see there, like it's hitting my hand. There's the spot there. All right, so what we're doing now is I've already said, hey, this tool is in and we've got the perfect angle and this is gonna help me get it there. But we do the same thing. So I'm gonna get here nice and close and I'm gonna say, hey, this is the spot that I need. Like that's where I'm at. I'm gonna mark it and then I'm gonna back up. And then this is gonna show me how far off I am. So you can see my mark there. Now this is all the way over here. That's as far off as it's going to be. And so I need to start working through the alignment to get that dot down to where the other one is at, or actually just past it. So I'm going to loosen up the little lock nuts or little lock threads over here for the adjustment screws. All right, so this ultimately looks like it's just up and down that we need to adjust. And so I'm going to go ahead and dial this one in. And I'm going to go just below that. And so then I'm going to go ahead and mark that point again. Actually, we're going to do it close, mark that point. So close, it wants to be right about there. So we're going to go out far, see where it's at, and then it really starts to go down from there. So we're going to go ahead, bring this back up, and let's compare it again. Up, wiggles a little bit. So I'm going to come up just a little bit more. So that's pretty good. It's dancing around that spot pretty close. I mean, we can go down just a hair here. And I mean, that's pretty good. I think that's going to be what we want right there. So now we'll go ahead, we'll remove this tape, and we'll move on to the next mirror, because now we're hitting this mirror. So you can see there's the dot hitting that mirror, and it's passing on to the next one. All right, so at this step, I've actually put a piece of tape, I didn't stick it to the mirror, but I went ahead and put it on there so that way it's just above it. And I have the red dot sitting on there from the reverse alignment tool, and then you can also see where the tube is actually hitting that spot there. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust the tube, shim the tube up, so that way it's hitting where the red spot is. So I'm going to go ahead with the marker. I'm going to mark that red spot. And then I'll pull the reverse alignment tool out, and then we're going to try and get the laser tube to line up with that spot that we just marked. All right, so at this point, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I have loosened up these screws, and there was a rubber little spacer that was here on top of the tube. So I actually took that one out and put it underneath. So that way there's two stacked here, and it's slightly angling the tube upwards. That way it will better line up with the path that we have from the reverse alignment tool. So now I'm just going to go ahead and tighten these down again, because I've already checked a little bit of the alignment, and I'm getting pretty dang close. So tighten this up a little bit. I don't need to crank it down, just so it's snug and I know it's not moving anywhere. So yeah, looks like it's snug. I'm going to go ahead and pulse real quick just so I can kind of compare where my marks are hitting. So I'm right about the same height up and down. So I'll swing the camera over so you can get a better look at where we're at. All right, so the mark there at, not the very top, but the top left there, that is the mark that I actually did with a pen. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit a pulse here. And you can see that I just need to go a little bit farther to the left, and that's going to get me on top of that marker mark. So I'm going to loosen up the brackets that are actually holding everything, and then move the actual tube slightly to point a little bit more left. All right, so I've loosened up those mounting brackets for the tube and kind of pushed it over there to the left. So let's go ahead and compare now. And so now I'm actually right over the top of it, and so I'm going to go ahead and tighten those down. and really try and not move the tube. And then I will go ahead and tighten up the screws a little bit to help bring the tube down, because we're like pretty dang close. So tightening these down, and even tightening these down may help bring the tube down just a little bit. Okay, so there's it there. And then I'm going to go ahead and compare just one more time. Yeah, so I'm just a little bit high. So I'm going to go ahead and use my screwdriver. Compress the rubber a little bit more on the tube, at least underneath the tube. See if we can get that to come down. So pretty close. And when you're doing this, you can use pieces of paper, you can use, thin pieces of rubber, whatever you have to be able to just get the height that you need on this. So I'm gonna call that close enough. I don't want to mess with it too much because it's pretty dang close as far as reverse alignment goes. So I'm going to take this off. I do need to clean this mirror now because it's got a little bit of soot on it. So I'm going to grab my microfiber towel and a little bit of rubbing alcohol. And we're just going to clean this mirror off. Okay, there we go. So now what we want to do is we also want to go and now mark the reverse alignment tool here on this spot and compare where we're at. So now what I've done here is I've gone and I used the reverse alignment tool and I made a mark here on this tape. And I can see it. It's a little bit hard for you to see it from where you're at, but I've got it marked there. And now I want to pulse front and back and just kind of see how the tube is hitting that spot. So now I just want to see how the tube, the beam path from the tube, is actually hitting that spot. So I'm going to go ahead and say pulse here, see where it's at. And it's pretty dang close to that. So I'm going to go ahead and push it down just a hair. But then we're going to come all the way out and pulse again. And it's still just a little bit high from that spot. So we're just going to go down again from there and pulse. And then down just a little bit more. And pulse. And probably just down a little bit more. And pulse. Okay, and that looks like it's about right. So we're going to go ahead, do the same thing again. I'm going to go ahead and throw the reverse alignment tool in there. Mark this spot. Pull the tool out again. And then do the same thing again. Go up, pulse, and see where that marked on. Forward, and it actually hit right on that. And then we'll pulse again. And I think it could go down just a hair more. And that looks golden. So now that I've got this beam aligned from mirror over to the mirror 1 and then mirror 1 to 2 again with the reverse alignment path, we should be golden. We should be set up because the laser head here I already know is 90 because we've been using the reverse alignment tool. This path is already good, and I already know that this path here to here, if this one is lined up, this one to here should all be good. So let's go ahead, let's put things back together, let's clean everything, and then we will go ahead and run a test card. All right, so this is kind of the proof in the pudding. Before I did the alignment on this tool machine, I'd never used the reverse alignment tool on it. I was usually cutting somewhere around 15 millimeters a second at 40% power when I was using this machine for this exact material. This is a 60 watt machine, and so now with the improvement with the reverse alignment tool, I could even go to 20 millimeters a second at 40% power to get the same results. Because this one fell right out. This one I had to kind of just push out. So definitely an improvement in what my alignment looks like. I mean, you look at all these lines and all of them look nice and, pencil thin. It actually looks like I feel like I've gotten an even better engraving than I have in the past. Nice and clean. It's crisp on the edges. So definitely I'm a fan of the reverse alignment tool, but you just have to understand how to use it. But definitely improved results as far as this machine goes. All right, and so now that we've done a full alignment on this machine using both traditional and reverse alignment methods, we're getting much better results on test cards. Like I was saying, this is a much better test card that I've gotten on this machine prior. Could it be better? I don't know, maybe. But it's pretty dang good, especially compared to what I was getting before. So I definitely believe that the reverse alignment tool is helpful. Alignment is a difficult subject, so I'm going to go ahead and link a couple other videos here that may be a good reference for you. So that way you can get a good round knowledge of alignment and even some other people that may explain it, and maybe that just clicks better with you. But I'll also go ahead and down in the description, I'll add other videos. I will add links for the reverse alignment tool and anything else that I feel like is going to be helpful. Also, if you have any purchases that you're going to be making through OMTech, I am an OMTech affiliate. I'll add that stuff down there as well. But if this video has been helpful to you, please like, subscribe, comment, let me know, and we will just see you on the next one.